there is a bed bug line. You can see there's a light side and a dark side, but holy cow, when you squint, it evens out and it's very, very difficult to see the difference. This is how obvious it should be. Should go on the nose. Now we know how big the nose is by the length of the shadow. If you don't have a shadow on the nose, you don't see the length of the nose, so you're hiding it, okay? So that's the passport photo, bureaucratic photo. And look what you can do with one bust. If you have one bust, all the lighting situations you can possibly, learn from. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. If you have one bust and one light source, you're learning how to draw for the rest of your life, okay? And look at all the drama you can create, by the different ways of lighting your subject. Okay? So keep that in mind, that it's your decision accurately. So you have to get rid of any lights in your studio that are the old yellow ones, and you need to make them all 5,000K outdoor white lights. It's inexpensive now. It used to be $100 a bulb. Now you can buy them from the dollar store for $4, put them into an IKEA lamp. These are all from Home Depot. They're LEDs, they hardly take any electricity. All these bulbs in both rooms are the equivalent to 2 regular light bulbs. And it's not yellow, okay? Also, you can't paint in a room where there's any color. Like if you have a red wall, good luck. Red infects every color you try to look at. It's okay? So we used to match colors perfectly, skin colors in the studio, and then we take them outside. And by the way, most skin color, no matter where you're from in the world, is a gray down orange. So we make this great skin color, right, in the studio, and then what you do is directly out between the two, 4 to 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 to 16 to 20 feet away is where you tape off on the floor where you're going to stand. So during this entire drawing, I'm going to take all my measurements from this spot I showed you last week. The back foot goes here, the front foot goes there. Now it doesn't matter, I could get a bigger board that comes down to here, a bigger sheet of paper and do a bigger drawing, no problem. That would be the one solution. Today, I'm just going to draw to this spot. See this spot? So directly across, right here is where it would be. And how easy is it for me to see that from a distance, right? So there's a great advantage to being from a distance because you're not seeing detail and you can see all the lateral connections. But no, we're not using a 6-foot-long pencil or paintbrush. We're using the left side of that. If I have one around the top and one around the bottom, I'm good because those are 2 alignment points. 2 are the minimum, but in this case I have 5, okay? It's your decision where it goes. It's based on, it'll change depending on your subject. It'll always be different on your subject. Now what's great about the bars, because they're made for beginners, they have a line right down the middle. See it? See that? That's the vertical. So all you have to do with your paper, you could practically print sheets of paper with a line down the middle, couldn't you? And you could do all the bars. But it's not always the case when you're drawing from life that the vertical is right down the middle of the page. It'd be great if it was, because we wouldn't have to think. But what I'm going to do now is figure out, if I put my line, here, what would happen to my bust? Would it fit on the paper? So you're going to take your first measurement now. You're going to take a horizontal measurement. Turn your needle this way, horizontally like this. Thumb is on the string, bring this over here. Now this, my thumb on the needle is on the mark I made, and I'm staring at the left side. And I walk up, and I make a mark. So there's my educated guess of where, if I put the string there, that would be the nipple, okay? Now I gotta go back and check it. Tip of the needle is on the nipple. I'm taking the same measurement again, and I'm checking it. And it's a little bit wider, not much. But because I took a shot, I was able to get to perfection. Don't worry about your first shot. Don't go, oh, I just can't get that first shot. It doesn't matter. Once you have a first shot, you can start the work. So what I'm going to do now is walk back there, take a measurement from the string to its widest point, which is higher, isn't it? It's not down here, it's up here. So my hand is up here, I'm taking this measurement, I'm putting it here, I'm bringing it down to this, and I'm going to make a mark on the extreme right side. So what I'm taking now is a measurement from there to there, and I'm transferring it to there. Do you get what I'm doing? I'm putting the right side of the bust, but it's farther up. So I walk all the way back here, I'm already tired. You will get your steps in when you do this. Tip of the needle is on the dot on the throat. My finger is on the extreme right side of the bust. I transfer it, I move it down. Stare out a spot in space, make a little mark, go back and check it. By the way, my marks would be regularly very ghosty. I'm making them very dark for you so you can see them. So I can either take the measurement off the paper and go that way or the other way. It doesn't matter because it's a comparison. Okay, not bad though, right? You actually get really good at this. After a while, you can do this without a double walk. Like you get so good at it at seeing a spot in space. So if I drop my string here, this is where the extreme left side of the bust would be. This would be the extreme right side, but higher up. Looks pretty balanced, you know? So now I know that if I drop my vertical, it will be on the paper. Now if I take a measurement from the outside this way and this way, not bad. If I wanted to be perfect, you see, I could take the difference. See the difference? See the difference? I could take the difference, which is about this much, and I can just half it and then move everything to the right or to the left. But I'm going to leave it, okay? So now I'm going to drop my vertical. By the way, the vertical is done with a ruler. It has to be done with a ruler because all your measurements are taken from your vertical and horizontal axis. So when you draw your line on here, you'll do it with a ruler too. So what I do is I take my ruler and I go over here and I take a measurement from the left and I want to run it all the way up. So I drop from the line here. Because all of your measurements are taken from this has to be accurate. By the way, you're never going to take measurements from another point that you've made because then you can cascade your errors throughout your entire drawing. What's that? That's its widest point. It's farther up, but it's still its widest point. So I'll put a little ghosty line in there, and you know, the widest part is up here, right? You get that? Now what I'm going to do is block in the top and the bottom of the bust. Very easy. I already showed you how to do that. I'm going to stand there. I'm going to close my right eye. I'm going to look at where the needle meets the paper, right here. I'm going to stare at that spot. I'm going to walk up. I'm going to make a mark. I'm going to go back and check it, move it if it needs to be moved. And then I ghost in the top of the bust. Nothing will go beyond that on the bust. The bottom of the bust doesn't fit on the paper. Doesn't matter, we'll draw to here. I would look at that spot from there, look at where it met the paper, walk up, make a mark, go back, check it. If it's good, I would ghost in the bottom of the bust. Nothing will go beyond that on the bust. Okay? So we've just blocked in the bust. We've just blocked in our subject so that we know that it's balanced on the paper where we want it to be. The rest of the process is identical to the subtractive sculpture. Because you're adjoining a line. So this is how it's done. You find the widest point over here by dropping a vertical. You take a measurement from the string out, and obviously it's on the edge. This is where it would be. Then you find the very bottom of this by measuring out. You know how far out it is. And then you figure out how high or low it is, and let's see it's down here. And that's what gives you the angle. The next thing you might do is find where the ear is. There's the top of the ear, there's the bottom of the ear. What's the angle of the neck? You find these two spots by measuring out and up. And then you're starting to chip away the top of the head. So if you remember, 3 straight lines gives you a curve. Do you remember that? So if I had a measuring point here, 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 and here, we're beginning to round off the figure, okay? These baubles, all of these folds on the top of the toga, you would find the high point, the low point, the high point, the low point, the high point, and this would become your shapes of all those baubles and things over there, okay? And then you would start chipping it away more and making it much more rounded, and you would see that it would be organic. You're doing one measurement at a time, and it's a walk up, a walk back, okay? Yep. From the vertical axis, and then its height found, okay? And now, doesn't it look like it? and it should look like the figure. If it doesn't, then you've done it wrong, okay? Something's off. And there's all the baubles and things. There's the angle of the neck and the ear. There's no information inside yet. The next thing we do is we stand there, we squint, and we only draw what we can see when we squint. We leave anything out within the darks, we leave anything out within the lights. This is what it looks like in the next stage. So where do you start? Which bedbug line thing do you start on? It doesn't matter. By the way, every measurement is independent of every other measurement because it's taken from the X and Y axis, never from another measurement. So you'll never make a measurement and then use that to see whether that's in the right place. That's so you don't cascade your errors throughout the entire drawing. So this is what it looks like in the next stage where you're working on the bedbug line shapes. And this little pouch under the eye becomes 6 measurements if you want it. That's 6 walks up just to get that alone. That's if you got it perfect. If you got it wrong, it might be 12. It might be, 18. So, you got to be pretty accurate. Here's the Rembrandt triangle again. And here's all the things you draw on all the things you leave out. Then you make the lines much more solid because they want the lines dominate over the shading, which you guys didn't do in your homework. So this is what it looks like as a final product. You can see that the outside edge is very strong. So you can see the shape clearly and cleanly, and it's completely closed. There's nothing sketchy. There's no lines that don't mean anything. There's no lines within the light, and there's no lines within the dark, is there? Okay? So that's a cartoon. That's the final cartoon. Because these are called inches. I can take inches, and it'll tell me how many inches that length is on that. But what I mean is, how many heads high is a figure, right? It's a comparative measurement. There's a head. Oh, the head is 8 heads high or 6 heads high. How many barns wide is the field? How many cows wide is the barn? If you know one of those things, you can find everything else. Okay, so you guys are going to take a comparative measurement right now. I want you to close one of your eyes and tell me how many heads high this figure is. By the way, this is not a head from here up. Why isn't it? Because there's dark in there and nothing exists within the darks when you squint. So the actual chin is the bottom of that red dot. Put the tip of the needle to the top of the head, bring your finger down to the bottom of that red dot, stack another one, tell me how many heads high this figure is. Yes, it's about 3, okay? So look what I can do. Let's say, I don't even have to look up there. What if I make my head this big? Would it fit? No, it wouldn't fit on the paper. By the way, I'm not even looking up there. I'm just making sure that 3 of whatever I pick fit. That's pretty good. Make it a little bit bigger, and that's it. I still drop a vertical. That's a given. I still tape off where I stand. That's a given. Otherwise, you can't control the variables of where your head is in space. So I just used the measurement of the head, and you told me there were 3 to find the length of the whole thing. That's a comparative measurement. Now watch what I'm going to do now. I'm going to split the head into halves and quarters. So I'm going to pick a guess at a half, and if I'm good, a little mark, guess at a half of a half. By the way, that's what you do at the academy if you were an apprentice or an atelier in the Renaissance. They would give you a line, and you have to split it into halves, fifths, sixths, tenths, eighths. And you would be really good at it. So you can do it by eye, okay? So here's half a head, right? Here's 3/4 of a head, here's a quarter of a head here, okay? So quarter, 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 quarter. Now, you're still tape off where you stand. You look at your subject and you find something along the length of the head that is at the halfway point, that's along the bedbug line that's memorable. Now, I've done this enough to know that when you stand here, with your right eye closed, with your head this high, half a head is the bottom of the pouch right there. So you see, there's half a head, there's the other half a head. So on your paper, on the side of your paper at the halfway point, you draw a little pouch and you point to what you mean by half a head. Then you find a quarter. Oh, what's a quarter? Well, I've done this enough to know that the top of the very right side of the ellipse there is half of a half, which is a quarter. Over here, you draw a little mouth. You point to what you mean by a quarter, and now you're good. So what's a quarter of a head? The length? There. What's a half? There. What's an eighth? What's 3/4? Let's say there's a little shape on here that's memorable. I would draw it over on the side. I would point to whether it's the top and the bottom of it. And now I have a 3/4 of a head. So I've just made a ruler out of my head. A quarter, a half, 3/4, full head. Anything else I need to know that I don't know, I'm going to compare to my ruler. So if I wanted to know the width of that, see it? All I have to do is turn it vertically and go, oh, it's an eighth. And that means that an eighth, half of a quarter, becomes the width of that pouch. Do you remember the first chunk that you took out here? Well, all I have to do is go, okay, from the string to the ear, that's it, widest point. What if I turn it this way? Oh, it's halfway between the half and 3/4. Halfway between the half and 3/4, turn it sideways, becomes your extreme right side of the head. Isn't that amazing? So it's like you've made a right off somebody's length of their nose and go right to our sculpture and take the same measurement. They were life-size, sight-size heads, okay? So anything that measures the distance between 2 points. We even have ones in here that have dials on them, so you can check the width of the iris and see whether the width of the iris is the same as well, okay? These are just called dividers, or compasses, I guess. Now I'm going to show you a technology that speeds up the process. This is the first technology. This is called a proportional divider. It's like a regular divider, because you can take measurements and see whether they're the same. But it has an equal amount of holes down the middle that are equally spaced, pointed on both ends, a scissored piece of wood. And where you put the screw in the hole, it does all of the proportional work for you. So look at this, look what I can do. I can open this up, still have to stand straight, one eye closed, tape off where you stand. Let's say I wanted the full length of the figure from back here. I can put that to the bottom, that to the top, and look what it does all the proportional work for me. So now I can go, okay, there's the top of the bust, there's the bottom of the bust. What about the width? There's the width, there's the left side, there's the right side. You see how quick that was? So this is called a proportional divider because it's a divider that does proportional work for you. They've been around for 500 years. I've never seen them for sale in an art supply store. On that sheet I handed you last week, there's a YouTube video on how to make your own. In some places, you can buy them on YouTube. Okay? This one cost me $40 plus $40 shipping across the border in America, over $100. I gave it to somebody in the class, and they made everybody in the class aluminum ones. They have to be light, right, to hold them up. And my father made it pine ones. Again, they're very light. My son had a 3D printer, and I said, hey, let's start selling some. So he started making these really long ones, so you can get a full figure if you're working from a model. But he's not selling them anymore, but there are some places you can get them. By the way, what's great about them is not only can you blow up an image by taking a measurement here and blowing it up on the other side, but you can shrink an image. See, it does the proportional work the other way. As long as you keep the screw in the same hole throughout the entire drawing, then you're good to go. You're doing it. To put them on the drawing board here. But more often than not, it's called a drawing horse because you sit on it. You sit here. You have a drawing board here with your back straight. You can take measurements off the subject, transfer it to the drawing board. Tape off on the floor where they go. They can put 40 of these in an academy room and draw the models, and they can pack people in. And day to day, week to week, you tape off where you go. But that's not the invention. It's what Leonardo did to this. So this is Leonardo's invention. He took the drawing horse and he added a couple of things. The first thing he added is this. What's this? Well, it's a peephole. He puts a peephole between the viewer and the subject. What does a peephole do? It locks your head in space, because if you move, you can't see inside what's going on in that room anymore. So you have to have your head right in front. This locks your head in space like a vice. The next thing he does is he takes a frame, wooden frame, and he hangs string on it, and he grids up the subject in front of you. There you go, there's the grid, right? He actually has one in front of him. He then numbers across the top and letters down the side. This sits here. You look through the hole, and lo and behold, your image is gridded up in front of you. You then take a drawing board and a piece of paper, and you draw the same grid The same number of squares across and down. You number across the top, letter down there. You look at A1. If there's nothing to do, you do nothing. If A2 has nothing, you do nothing. If A3 has one line on it, you put it in with one line. By the way, we're only using straight lines, always. So you make your way around the subject, drawing all the way around like as if it's gridded up, and then you should work on the bedbug line shapes. Leonardo warned against the use of any tool as too much of a crutch, but he said this is a great tool for solving some problems like where is your hand in space? Oh, it's at it's H5 and 6, right? You know exactly where it is. So if you've ever gridded up an image to blow it up before in school, which they do a lot, then this is the same process, okay? Come on up and have a look. Don't sit on it, you don't have to. Just look through the hole so you can see how it works. It's not much different than the ancient Greeks, really, because all it is a villa. There's your room, right? With a hole. There's the big hole. So what they did is they made a little villa. There's the little villa. But the invention in the 17th century is optics, telescopes, microscopes, corrective lenses for people who can't see anymore. For the first time, we can focus the image onto the back of wall. So we put this in here, that focuses the image. Oh, there is no back wall. What are we going to do? Well, what they did is because they want to see the image from outside of the room, is they drop a piece of sanded glass into the back. And lo and behold, the image is projected in full color and mirror form onto the back panel. And if you were an artist in the 17th century, you could take tracing paper, which they had, put a piece of tracing paper over there, draw the outside edge of the bedbug line, and flip it the right way, you're good to go. Grid it up if you want it bigger, right? So David Hockney said, Vermeer must have had one of these. His paintings look like Caravaggio must have had one, because how else could he draw so well? Well, you know, when he came out with his book called Secret of the Old Masters, we laughed. Never happened, but okay, so when you're right-handed, this is typically the setup. The bust is on the left, the easel's on the right. So pretend this is the bust. If you remember, we never draw above our high height or below. So you see that horizontal axis? That should be right in front of your face, maybe an inch lower. So you see it should be there an inch lower on the left. Make sure it's straight, because otherwise, yes, everything will go wrong if you work with an angle. So see the edge of the paper here, or the edge of the easel? You can use that. You can put it there if you want to make sure it's straight. But look at the edge. Does that look straight? Okay. I'm just going to do this quick. So tape that down on all four corners. See, the tape is all on straight lines, no angles. Exactly like the setup. Here's the easel. Okay, so here's the easel. Do you put it over here? No, because of all the visual clutter. Do you put it here? No. You overlap the paper. See, overlap the paper and put it right to the edge of the image there, like that. Make sure it's straight. So this is exactly the same setup as the easel with the bust beside it. The next thing I do is I take a needle and actually I'm going to take a ruler. I'm going to drop a vertical and put a horizontal on it. By the way, we're using a ruler because all your measurements are taken from the X and Y axis. I suggest you all do this first. You're going to take your ruler, you're going to run it across as your horizontal axis. So you see it there? Just continue it across. Make sure it's straight. Okay, there's my horizontal axis. Vertical, you see these little lines on here? I'm going to use that to make sure that this is straight, and I'm going to put it somewhere in the middle. Because it's a barg, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be balanced as long as you're somewhere in the middle. So there you go. There's my X and Y axis. That's my cross. There's my cross. Here's my cross. Okay, now I want you all to start with this measurement here, which is on your paper. Why would I have you start there? Well, a lot of people think, why would I even have a measurement there? That just looks like the middle of a line. It is not the middle of a line. There's a change of direction there. See the angle there? See how it changes there? That means that is a subtlety that most beginners can't even see. So I want you to do that one first. That's only one measurement, isn't it? From there to there, right? You don't have to do a height measurement. So all you have to do, you're going to put your needle there, your head's right in front, and this time you're not locking your arm and walking it over. You're just simply going to take that measurement and slide it. See what I did? Slide it over, and the meeting point of where that mark is, and that is my educated guess. Then I would go back to see whether I did it right, and if I did it right, then I'm going to go on to the next dot. The next dot, and I do suggest you do this, you actually put a dot in the beginning and end of each of the lines so you know what you're measuring. This is your next measurement, all of you. You're going to measure down and you're going to measure over, but without the walking. It's exactly the same without walking. So this time you would take a measurement from there out to the extreme right, always on the horizontal or vertical, never a diagonal measurement. Slide it over here, put a dot, check it. If that's the right distance out, then you now have to take a measurement down. To take a measurement down, always vertical or horizontal. There's your measurement down. Put it over here. That's how far down it is from that line. And the meeting point of both of those, of course, would become the angle. Once you've got two dots, ghost it in with a ghosty line, and then you can go on to the next dot. The next measurement will be a measurement down and a measurement over. So you might measure down, you might measure over to find where it is, and that becomes the angle. Did you get it? Okay. So come into this room and grab an easel. There are 4.